Just questing, just something minor like that. That won't be quite available in Alpha 1. But
So
they'll
how
have
are you supposed to level if you can't, like, you just have to fight and kill stuff?
Have you
Like,
never heard of grinding? You're the one who likes the classically spirited MMOs, man. Grinding.
and have quests? Welcome to Disparate Worlds, where an irresistible force meets an immovable object. I'm Mox, and this is Sechari, and we're comparing and contrasting the worlds of Pantheon, the Rise of the Fallen, and Ashes of Creation.
Welcome, friends, to our second episode. We have to announce that we have the shirts. Hold on, I can't.
Yes.
I can't point at my nipple. I've got to point at the.
I've got it. Wait.
Yeah, don't point at your nipple.
There we go.
Point at the.
Yeah,
There you go.
I'm not-
Okay, so it's all reversed. Definitely good to have you guys here. Welcome. So we're going to get into some very cool things this episode. But we wanted to just kind of draw the curtain back just a little bit and let you guys in on what the plan is for the next several months.
I didn't make the bed.
You didn't make the bed?
Yeah, they can't see behind the curtain.
Oh, well.
I sleep in the studio.
If the studio is your bedroom, I think that makes some sense. Maybe it's good that you got a green screen behind you.
Good point.
Okay, so it is very important to us to be very news-centric. So the news is going to drive what we're doing on our show. We're going to be highly responsive as stuff comes out. If it's comment-worthy, we're going to comment on it. So, by all means, expect some analysis. But there are going to be some times where we do an episode where there's not going to be some hot news that's just come out. And so I think what we're going to do for those episodes is cover, more of a topic kind of thing. Because, as Marks, as we spoke about last episode, we are still kind of getting up to speed on some things, right? We're
Very
still
much
doing some
so.
research. So...
Right.
What we'll do is we'll cover some of the topics that we're learning about and uncover, things like races, classes, skills and professions, all of that kind of stuff. We'll do kind of like a topical look at the differences between these games. But again, the news, right? So that's what matters to us. Along those lines, there's been some pretty significant stuff in the news lately. Pantheon on October 14th came out with a producer's letter. And Ashes of Creation, October 16th, came out with a creative director's letter, both of which are like news updates with regard to the studio status, how things are going, and some pretty huge announcements that we will get into here in a moment. Another thing is that just kind of in the news, we're seeing Ben Dean sat down for a really good interview with Nathan Napalm. So we're going to link that down below. Jalon did like a really long interview with Stephen Sharif of Intrepid about Ashes of Creation. So we'll link that down below as well. So there's actually a lot of news that we have to kind of cover in this episode. Again, the links for the two episodes and for those two videos down below for sure.
For sure. And speaking of the producer's letter and content creators, Basgrim's analysis of the letter should be coming out in the next day or so. If that's out by the time we release, we will also link to that.
Excellent. Okay, so getting into it a little bit, we had decided that what we're going to do with this episode is read through both of these letters. And kind of compare some things that jump out at us as we read them about, kind of comparing the two studios, where they are, and, and also the status of the project. And so I think what jumped out, Marks, I don't know if you saw this kind of the same way I did. Funding was a big thing, right? The studio funding, and then also staffing and talent, who has the resources to be able to get where they're trying to go. Obviously, we have two studios that are really trying their best to get their games across the finish line and get to launch, but there's a roadmap to get there, and it's complicated, right? It's a complicated game to do that. So
Absolutely.
Yes, for sure. So what we wanted to do was just kind of start with our first impressions of the letter, and then we'll talk some about the funding stuff that jumped out at us in the two of those, and then also some about the staffing. So, Mox, let me ask you, what was your first impressions of the Pantheon producer's letter?
I was encouraged by the letter at first first read it and I was excited about it, and I still am. They talked about the history of Pantheon, how they where they started, how they got to where they're going, their initial steps in getting a product that was presentable to some play testers and to investors, but it was raw. It was unrefined, I guess is probably the best word to use.
Right.
And clunky, probably also. The graphics weren't as good as what they wanted or what their engine would allow. So they had to kind of close down the avenues of communication for a bit. And they entered into a lot of what the Pantheon fandom considers to be the dark times of their the development cycle, called Project Fairthale. And
Fairthale? Oh, okay. Sorry, to me it was Farthale. I guess I was saying it wrong.
No, it's Project Farthale.
I got you saying it wrong now too. Fairthale. You said Fairthale first. Now I've got you saying Farthale.
Yeah, whatever.
I tripped him up, guys.
Twisted.
All right, keep going.
We need a counter for stuff like that, I think. All right. So anyway, Project Fairthale was a roughly 2-year window where kind of the devs went almost nearly silent during that time. They were inventing the game, really. They're rebuilding it from the ground up, making it to a playable version to where they could inject new content easily and expand things, and the graphics would be more pleasing to the eye, which they're still working on the graphics. A lot of the stuff is still what they call gray boxed, that you'll see. If you look at it, it's sometimes you look and see that doesn't look great, but just understand that that's not the finished product, that it's something that's a work in progress, as both of these games are.
Right.
So they needed that robust, scalable solution, and they got there. And that's the purpose of this letter, was to say, hey guys, we are there. We're through Project Fairthale enough that now we can start accelerating our pace to a degree, because and as we'll talk about this later, they do have a modest team. Their funding isn't as robust as, say, ashesofcreation's funding is. So they, while they search for those funding solutions, they're still progressing, and their goal is absolutely to get this game out to launch. It's just a matter of what will that time frame be. So anyway, we're heading into pre-alpha 5, and that's going to be a phased project where, eventually all of the classes, save 2, will be available. The Bard and the Necromancer are going to be coming later in the development cycle, but all the races are going to be available, and they'll have a fully leveled process in place for testers to get in there and take advantage of, with more zones and such to be added as things go along. It's going to be piecemeal. You're going to have a short session, then they'll get wiped, and then the testers will go back in. They'll have another short, maybe a little bit longer of a session, and then eventually they will get to a point where they're ready to head into alpha, but they don't have that date given yet.
Right.
So that's,
by the end of PA 5, right, or pre-alpha 5, they are actually intending on having a decently working version of the game out there.
Right.
That shows the full leveling experience from 1 to 50. You can play any race that you want, right? All of the classes are there, save the 2 that they're still working on, and probably we'll see those, sometime later. More details.
They're gonna have a working UI.
Yeah. Oh well, a working UI. What would that be? I don't know.
Yes, you would not know that, because it doesn't exist in the Ashes world.
Yes, well, just you wait. If you hold it back and they're working on it, it means it's going to be beautiful when it comes out. They have the best artists on it, I promise.
So it's going to be one button that you click to win?
Yeah, click to win. All you need is one skill. It's going to be beautiful. Especially in PvP, let me tell you.
Right.
So yeah, no, I'm actually decently impressed. We're talking about first impressions here. I upon initial read, I was like, I don't know if this is such a good thing, and I think we're going to get into this a little bit in the funding session, right? Section of this where we talk about that. But there were some things that made me kind of a little bit nervous for it. But I think
I believe the words that you used was, "Mox, I'm worried."
I'm very worried because your pet project is about to get shot.
Taken out behind the barn and put down.
No, I have revised my view, sir, a little bit. I'm feeling better. Well, I need something to compete against, man. So make me feel better.
You do still think that they're on a knife edge, and as you said, when we get to the funding portion of this conversation, we can talk a little bit more about that. But you also got some news that, a couple days later, you got a letter from your creative director that kind of outlined the next 6 months of Ashes. Tell us about that.
Yes, my creative director. I like the way you phrase that. He's my guy. He's on my side. That's great. Yeah, we did. And of course, I was very encouraged about my chosen MMO here. There's a lot in it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Just kind of miscellaneous things about 4K videos, the things that they've done lately. Player art and all kinds of cool things. Studio hiring, that's really big, and we'll talk about that as we go through this. Mentioned an engine upgrade. They're using Unreal 4.23, but now it's going to be 4.25, so some stuff. The cool thing, though, and they actually held the letter back just a little bit to be able to publish the dates for Alpha, which, yes, that means that we're making some good progress. So, yeah, they've got a plan for Alpha. They had already promised that it was going to be live, or that we're going to be doing some alpha testing before the end of the year, and they've made good on that promise, which is great. I'm glad to see that.
Define your alpha, because this is not like just a here's the game, you're all going to play it for a month. Tell us about it.
Yeah. So okay. So let me back up just a second. They wanted to be very careful about how they defined an alpha. There are Eastern MMOs that get created in Korea or wherever else they are, right? And they are specific to that region. And then somebody decides, hey, we should open this up in the West. Let's go put it in America, right? Go put it in Australia. And so to do that, they kind of revise some pieces of the game and put the new, put English in there, some language changes and whatever. But then they bring it over and they say, here is Alpha. But what you receive at that point is really a well-developed game. It's already out there. It's just been reskinned, quote-unquote, in some ways, right? So it's already a fairly advanced game, and they didn't want people to use that definition. It was important to them that you understand that alpha is a software engineering term. It means that this is a proto phase where there's some things that are fleshed out, but some things that are still not right there. We're introducing things. It's going to be directed, so we're going to be testing specific systems. Be very careful with your expectations, and I think that's important. So, as we go, obviously the game, we'll begin to see more and more things. So, with that definition in mind, the schedule for it, before the end of the year, December 18th, there's going to be a 4-day session where really early backers, Bravers and Intrepid pack holders, will be able to get in and play. It repeats again on February 19th. So there's 2 4-day sessions under NDA. Okay? But the cool thing is for the next session, which is going to be a week long starting March 19th of next year, it's open to all Alpha 1 testers, 0 NDA, which I think is phenomenal.
I think you missed one, because you have the week, the 4 days in December, 4 days in February, then the 1 week in March.
Yes. So it's the third session, but no NDA I think is really cool.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that.
Because you better believe I'm going to be watching anybody who can possibly live stream anything. I'm going to be watching and taking some serious notes.
You're in the alpha though, aren't you?
I'm in Alpha 2.
Alpha 2.
So
okay.
Yeah, gotcha. And I'm glad for that. We got into this project. I knew about this some years ago, but I thought I'd wait and just see if it was going to be a viable project. You just never know when things are very early. So
yeah,
I believe it now, though. Let me tell you. So and then the actual alpha, the full blown thing, Alpha 1 is going to be 1 month long, starting April 6th. So by middle of next year, we will have been through the Alpha 1 phase, and I'm not sure, no dates again when Alpha 2 is going to happen.
Right.
There are some limitations, though. One of the things that I have to mention, unfortunately, to Mox's incessant gloating, is the lack of a UI. It's placeholder right now, quote unquote. But I hope that means it's getting more and more beautiful as we speak. Because come on, man, I got to come back with something. And then also tutorial systems and questing, that stuff. just questing, just something minor like that. That won't be quite available in Alpha 1. But
so how are you supposed to level if you can't, like, you just have to fight and kill stuff?
Have you never heard of grinding? You're the one who likes the classically spirited MMOs, man. Grinding.
And have quests and like, okay, give me a task of killing 1,000 of something, fine, but at least I have a reason to do it.
Well, there you go. You get XP as you kill all of the stuff. So I don't know how that's going to look. I imagine they're testing certain things, but Alpha 2 will start to see some of that. So when they open up to everyone else.
And that's what they say now. You never know; they may surprise you in March and be like, here's our UI. You guys are going to be testing it. You never know especially given the kind of how things are going over there at the Ashes World, that they're hiring and adding on folks, and they're soon going to have their own country, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we're about to get more into that. All right, my friend, so let's go ahead and get into the meat of this episode. We had promised that we would dig into studio funding, little pesky things like staffing, and then, so here we go. Tell me, having read the producer's letter, what is your take? What are your takeaways with regard to the current status of the Pantheon project with regard to funding?
Right. Well, the big part of what I have, my faith I have, comes from, again, going back to Basgrim. We mentioned him earlier. He's a great content producer. He put out a video in September called "What is Pantheon: Rise of the Fallen's Financial Situation?" And he basically kind of went over the whole, they attempted the crowdfund, it failed. They went then directly to the fans, not going through the Kickstarter website, and said, hey, we want to do this, because they had, I think, a little over 3,000 backers, and they thought that's enough of proof of concept. We're going to give it a shot, and so they went directly to fans, and that's kind of where everything took off from there. And in that video, he talked about how they went from the crowdfunding, then they, progressed along, and they got to a point where they had enough funding and enough gravitas or clout to go and get Series A funding, which is a business term where you're going and you say, I have enough of a product and we want some investors in this product. They get shares in the company that are basically undilutable, which I don't know if people know a lot about when you have a business.
Splitting stock.
Exactly. If you sell stock and then you go and sell more stock, but that stock is then sold at a higher price, then the shares get diluted for other people. It's very complicated. But these people that invested very early on through that Series A funding, they're basically protected in their percentage of the company that they own. So that's, and they were able to get that. They got an angel investor, which is basically a very wealthy person comes in and says, I believe in this project. I'm going to give you a large sum of money, not just I'm going to give you a couple $100 to be able to play the game and
like the rest of us cheapskates.
Exactly. Right. This is somebody who probably gave them a couple $1 million and said, I believe in you, but when the time comes, I want a piece of the company as well. So, they're getting something for that. So,
Dude, I would do it just for alpha access. Here's $1 million. The only thing I ask is that I get all the testing access right from the very start. Sorry.
For $1 million, I want a tour of the studio to be able to play right there with zero lag.
I want a desk right here that I can visit anytime I want. So
I want to sit with Ben Dean, and you want to go and sit in Steven Sharif's
drink coffee daily. Yeah.
So anyway, the video that Basgrim put out there basically at the time was a very much uplifting one to me. So that when the newsletter came out and they said, look, we have progressed to a point where we can start really, speeding up the development process because we've gotten over this hurdle. We've gotten to this point where we can, basically update something quickly if we need to. So that was very uplifting to me, and I enjoyed the letter. I thought it was great, and I thought it basically showed that they are at a point where they are able to get there. Now, the speed is the question. So everything that they're doing is based on the rate at which money is coming in from, because they're still crowdfunding. They're still taking backers. So I imagine each month they get X number of people on average, and based on that average, they say, we're going to be getting that extra money going forward, so we can produce and we will produce the game.
Mm-hmm.
But they need some help ultimately to get to a point where they can accelerate the process.
Yeah. Actually, they need to accelerate, right?
Because Ashes was behind them, far behind them. And then when they went in and started doing Project Farthale, then things slowed down, and all of a sudden Ashes is now getting ready, and they have their alpha schedule, and we have pre-alpha.
Yes. Yes, Project Farthale was what did that. Love it.
Just far out.
I've got you saying it wrong now. It's just awesome. So let me read a quote real quick that was in that letter. I think it actually, in my opinion, captures this whole sentiment, this piece. They say, we are and always will be eternally grateful for the kindness and generosity of the community and our early investors in getting us this far. But we're going to need more resources to get Pantheon done sooner than our modest team can realistically do by themselves in a reasonable time frame. Right. Now, I think that reasonable time frame, you know what I'm saying? What does that mean? Right. They can do it. There's nothing stopping them, and they will do it. I think that the quote that I saw was "come hell or high water," in that in Basgrim's video. Right, they're going to do this, but everybody's waiting, and people want to be a part of this and want to see it launch. And so, obviously, the sooner they can do that, the better. And so, I think that's been the general push with this whole thing is if we can just get pre-alpha 5 out there and have a decent, working, useful, version of this game out there, then we can use that as a resource to get investors in. Look, we can demonstrate. Look how it's going to be. This is how questing works. This is how the classes play, and they can fund the expanded development on that, and also the publishing of that. Because I know they're still kind of trying to find a publisher, and they're kind of caught in that position right now where to get a publisher would really be helpful, but if you give away too much of that, they're going to get some creative control, and they're very committed to the vision that they want to get out there.
Timelines.
Yes, and they don't, and the more obviously with all the money that comes in from investors, the more control and the more you give away ownership of the project, ownership of the company, and owners have say, right? So there's that delicate balance that they're trying to maintain of maintaining creative control and the integrity of the product, the integrity of their vision, I think is the important part. But also being able to get the investment that they need to accelerate development on this. So it's quite a. That's why I call it. It's like to borrow the Lord of the Rings quote. This mission. It's on the edge of a knife. It's like they're having to balance that, and it's I hats off to them because that can't be easy.
I don't know if it's necessarily on the edge of a knife. I think it might be on the knife handle and looking at the edge of the knife and concernedly.
So long as the knife is not pointing inward, right? I think they may be okay. Because we don't want them to fall on the knife.
Right. Valid
I think we're going to be okay. So the other side of this coin, of course, in the Ashes world is, how are they doing in funding? And I have seen just this rocket of activity going on. It's just incredible. The gravitas, to borrow a Mark's word, that I'm seeing with regard to funding. There wasn't actually much mentioned in their letter about funding, but they were like, hey guys, guess what? We're hiring like crazy, and I think that's a good sign, because usually when you're hiring like nuts, and what did we see, Marks? There was a 24 positions, I want to say, that they filled. They filled 24, but there's still like 30, or I'm sorry, more than 20 openings on their website currently. But Steven mentioned in a video that they're looking at 100 hires in their next round. Right, which is going to come in January. I mean, 100 hires that they're trying to make around the early part of the year. To me, you don't get to that point until you have significant money, the resources to back it up.
And when you have an 87-person team and you're looking at more than doubling it in one shot, that's amazing.
Yes. Now, that's a concern to me, though. I mean, like, honestly, because when you have that kind of an influx, and we had spoken a little bit before this episode, let's make sure to, if we're talking about artists, I don't think it's so much of an issue. You say, welcome to the company, here's your t-shirt, right? Join the company, here, sign up for your benefits, that's your station, here's the art style, right? And of course, everything's going to get reviewed by creative directors, so we're good. But if we're talking about, things like server architecture and coders especially, right, the developers of the game, you have to get in there and you have to get to know how this game is architected, how, where certain things are, where to go find certain things. And there's, I think, more of a training type of onboarding, right? Onboarding and training is more significant, and I don't want to see oh, hey, we've just doubled the size of the company, but guess what, we're slow down the project because we're having to bring all these people up to speed.
Right.
So if it's a drawn out time and they're bringing people in, but they're and looking through those positions, they are primarily artist focused, right? They're more environment art, that kind of a thing. I'm not seeing much there that is heavy technical development. So
but that's only 20 some of the positions out of 100. So what are the other 70?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you got there's not just coders and there's infrastructure folks, people that know how to run a server. You have to have all of that.
There's also customer service. They could be bringing on people because they're going to be doing the alpha testing. Maybe they need to have phone people. Right. They can talk to you and help you resolve login issues and such. So it could be like a team of that. That could be 20 of the people. Like, we don't know.
Yeah. And so, but backing up out of that, at the end of the day, it's really good sign. To me, it's indicative of a really strong financial position that you can be doing that kind of hiring. So we do want to point out the Lazy Peon, actually just a few hours ago today, the day that we're doing the recording of this episode, put out a video called "The Real Reason Ashes of Creation Can Succeed Where Other MMOs Failed." And what he addresses in that video, and we're going to link in this in our description down below as well. He kind of defends, some of the things that people would say, well, this is a possibility as to why this MMO could fail. It's kind of addressing some of those things, right? Mm-hmm. Some of which is funding, and so it's actually a really good video to include here and to mention, because he actually addresses, here's the funding aspects of this, because obviously you don't have the funds, a project can die. So, yeah. So, okay, again, Ashes is fully funded to completion. There's not a problem there. That's been mentioned 100 times before in other videos and all kinds of things. So, and then one of the things I'm finding very interesting as I look at how they're doing things is the business model I see at work that continues to monetize crowdfunding. It's an interesting thing. Mox and I were talking about this just the other day, where you can go to their shop, and you've pledged at a certain level, and there's I think 4 or 5 different tiers of pledge. If you're on tier 2, there is a certain cosmetic level of item that you can purchase. On every given month there's a new set that will never come back again, right? Currently it's called the Woe Within the Woodlands. They're really dark characters. I mean, it's very, very nettled, and it's beautiful. It's really a good looking set. But as a level 2 subscriber, or as a level 2 crowdfunder, from month to month you can buy level 2 of those. But if you want access to the level 3
and level 1, so
and level 1
and level 2, right?
Yes, correct. So if you want access to the 3, and that's where the mounts are, right, the mount skins, then you're incentivized to go up to level 3. Well, then from month to month you can purchase the mount skins. Well, then the next level up is like actual character skins, which some of those things are incredible. So they're incentivizing folks to get to bump up their I guess a subscription. I don't know what the word for that would be. But then pledge, I guess. I guess it's a pledge. But at the same time, then you on an ongoing basis, you purchase those skins. It gives you access to purchase those skins. So it's clever. It's the first time I've ever seen anything like that happen. The question is it too much of is it a quote unquote cash grab? I don't know. What are some of those questions, right? Is that kind of incentivization of money coming in to fund development? I don't know, Mox. You tell me what you think.
I think it's interesting because you know exactly what you're getting. It's not a loot box.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're paying money in the hopes that you're going to get something. You
Right.
know, I'm going to be getting, these boots and this cloak at level 1 and level 2. And at level 3, I can get like or maybe I don't know if it's a full set arm or whatever, but at level 3, I can get the mount for sure. And I know that every month going forward, if I want to give them an extra $10 a month, then I can get that mount. And it's,
Right.
It's all skin. It's not pay to win. I think it's smart. It's a way to get there.
Right.
The only problem is though, then you run into the issue of I've now supported you for a year,
Right.
and I've got 12 mount skins and 12 and what's the leveling process like? Can I level 3 characters reasonably, or
Right.
5 characters, or is it going to be a slow grind of a leveling process like Pantheon's going to be, where you're going to kind of dedicate to 1 or 2 in order to get them up to that top 50, at least initially. So that's the question. Like, will I be able to use all this stuff that I'm
Right.
getting? But then you don't have to buy everything. You have the option. So
Yes.
it's interesting.
Yeah.
And if something really cool came out, then great. If something really cool with the flying mount came out, then I'd have issues with it, given their model
Their stance on
flying.
flying mounts.
Stance on flying. And again, it'll be for another episode, but it is terrible.
If you get Mox going on this, he is going to go for this is not going to be a short episode, that's for sure. We will do an episode on flying mounts, so I'm pretty sure.
Yes, for sure. For certain we will. Soon,
Yes.
as a matter of fact. Maybe next week.
Yes, because that's some shots he wants to take. No, it's good. I mean, I agree that they should incentivize that. It's good because, I think it's working. They have the ability, I think between that and whatever investments they've been able to receive, they have the ability to push their staffing and talent, and that's
And
what they
Steven's
need.
pockets are kind of deep.
Right, that does help. Yes, indeed. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about staffing and talent.
Okay.
What is the the current status of staffing and talent that you're aware of
Right.
over there at Visionary?
We mentioned it earlier. At Pantheon, at Visionary Realms, they have a small team. On their website, they have 37 people. Now, I don't know if that's the entire staff or if there are other people that kind of don't rate being mentioned on there, but they have 37 people on their hiring. They are not currently hiring. So whereas, as we mentioned, Ashes is hiring like crazy hiring,
Right.
and so there is a disparity between the two companies as far as like where they are in that process. And again, Pantheon's taking the kind of the slow, methodical approach, and I'm okay with that to a degree. I will start getting disenfranchised if it gets to be let's say the middle of next year and they still aren't in alpha.
Right. Yeah, and we're expecting a pace, right? And I think they're expecting a pace. I don't think that they want to just hang out and not get anything accomplished. So absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, it's I think it's fantastic that that Ashes is progressing, and if it happens to come out first, so be it. I honestly had originally thought that Pantheon would beat it out by a year, but I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. I'm more realistic at this point. One other thing that we didn't mention in our notes here that I do want to bring up is the model of the distribution. Pantheon is a purchase and then pay a subscription model. Ashes is free. Like, you don't have to pay to get the game. You pay your monthly subscription and that's it.
Yes, it's a sub-based model, correct? Yeah.
100% sub-based model, like no purchasing, which is very interesting.
It is interesting to me because, you think about the business model, that's associated with that. It's easy to just download and install a game, right? And then you pay for a month or whatever, so as opposed to, what I think is like almost like a financial gate on the front end for some people. I have to pony up $60, right? And then it's a sub after that, or, whatever else is involved. So those approaches are interesting to me.
The only thing that in defense of the purchase and sub bases, usually when you purchase and sub, you do generally get your first at least month for free.
Mm-hmm.
So you're buying the game and you don't have to pay that sub fee until the end of your first month of play. Usually, I can't say that's 100% sure how they're going to do it. Will be interesting to see. But that can also provide Pantheon with an influx of cash at the start.
Yes. Which is interesting that if it comes in at launch, then is that to pay back investors who may at that stage want to divest, right?
Right.
You just don't know. Or is it going to be channeled back into
the game, right?
The game. So
yeah.
That's a very interesting place to be. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to think about, the implications of all of this. Again, we're talking about two games that desperately want to get over the finish line. I don't think we can say that that's not the case with either one of these.
Right.
How they get there is the question. Also, one of the things that I was thinking about was the impact that these games might have on each other. Moreover, things like New World, right? That's also out there. I mean, these aren't the only games that are currently in development that people are talking about. That at some stage is it's working its way toward launch.
Right.
You and I had both spoken about we're going to play both games. I'm playing Pantheon, even though I'm the Ashes guy. And Mox, what are you going to do?
I'll be sick that week.
Yes, no, he's promised me, my friends, that he will.
I will play Ashes.
He owes me.
I will not defend a node though ever.
He doesn't want a PvP.
He's
gonna be decorating his house the whole time, and he'll love it.
I will be in the woods fighting the beasts as opposed to. Oh wait, the beasts are probably the Ashes community. Yes, maybe I will be PvP.
They will be raiding your farmhouse while you're at it. So. But
and such.
Right. But so there is an impact that these games are going to have on each other, and we've spoken about, actually, we hope that the launch of one is a reasonable amount of time from the launch of the other, so that we can get in and dig our teeth in at launch and learn and understand the systems and do the crafting and do the leveling and really get to know the game. And then when the other comes out, also do that with that. Both games get their due. If they come out within a week of each other,
yeah, that would be the worst case scenario, or even a month, to be honest with you.
Because then
at least 6 months between releases.
Right, because I know what I'm doing, and I think you know what you're doing, and we're just going to have to compare notes like we've been doing so far. So I'd like to get some experience in it. So, maybe it's good that Ashes, at least by the way we're seeing things, seems to be accelerating ahead. But in all honesty, I look at the whole idea of pre-alpha for Pantheon, and the idea that they are going to be coming up with a really decent working of the game, a version of the game 50, 1 to 50, the full leveling experience, most of the classes, almost all of them, all of the races. It's just really almost environment work is what I'm hearing from there that really needs to be done. I mean, the UIs are looking decent, so. Even though it's pre-alpha, maybe the way that they define these things could be, just disparate. What a surprise.
Exactly. And you never know. Like, they could come out with an announcement, at the beginning of November that, hey, we secured a deal with a publisher, and, it's going to allow us to, and then they lay out their next 6 months, and, we'll see what comes of it. But before we move on, I want to remind everybody, check us out on Twitter at Disparate Worlds, at Facebook.com/Disparate Worlds, and our website is DisparateWorlds.com. On there, we have some articles regarding both games. I'm still working on my Tenets of Pantheon series, and you can just find some really interesting stuff over there. So please definitely check those out.
Yes, absolutely. Quick promotion, some stuff that we want to make sure gets out there. Do check out our website. We have sections on there, one for Pantheon and one for Ashes, called the Pantheon Hub and the Ashes Hub, respectively. Down in the bottom right of those pages, we have a list of links that we're building to current content creators. We want to do our part in helping fellow content creators get the word out there. Send people their way. So we're kind of coming up with our own little list, kind of curating our own little list of them. But we need your help. If you could help us, that would be great, to uncover especially those ones that are not on the list, that are worth being on the list, especially. So what we're looking for is people that do regular content. It's quality, it's good quality stuff, especially. It's current and up to date. And where it's a good percentage. I realize some content creators out there do a number of different games, right, that they may do, but it's got to be a decent percentage of what they do and not just like the odd video kind of a thing. So if you are aware of any content creators that do that kind of a thing, and they're not on our list, having checked it out, by all means, we're going to put in the description down below a link to our contact us page. You can find it at disparateworlds.org/contact us. It's really easy. Still the link down below. Let us know if you are aware of anybody that we should consider, and we'll get in and look, and if it looks like they're a thumbs up, absolutely we'll put them on there. So far we've got already the Ashes Forge podcast, Paradox Gaming Network, on the Ashes side, Pantheon, Nathan Napalm for sure, he's really good at that. Basgrim, there's some good people that are showing up on this, so definitely. And while you're at it, just kind of slip us what their primary medium is as well. Like if they're primarily like a Twitch streamer or a YouTuber or something, podcaster, blog or whatever, let us know so we kind of know where to go to connect with them. So definitely.
So, as I mentioned last week, we have a Comquest. Every time we put out an episode, we are going to hopefully crown a Comquest champion. And we're still hoping that somebody will comment on our previous episode, which was how many gigabytes was my epic trailer video file that I uploaded to our site, and then Sechari edited. So we need somebody to claim that title, and so that we can, they can then get dethroned in episode 2, I guess.
Yes.
Speaking of our episode 2 Comquest, Sechari had reason to purchase a new computer this past week. He was originally told it would take about 3 weeks for delivery. The question is, how many days did it actually take to arrive at his doorstep? So,
yes.
Venture a guess at that, and then the person that is the closest, we'll put you at the top, and you'll get pinned, and you'll be our Comquest champion of the episode.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you guys very much for joining us. Always glad to have you with us, and it's a joy to get to know you guys, especially in the comments. So definitely drop a comment. We are very interested in knowing what you think about things. Don't forget to like, of course, subscribe. Very important, hit the notification bell, especially so that way you won't miss upcoming episodes. Very important as well. All of that said, my friends, do take care of yourselves, and remember always to be immovable in your principles and irresistible in your passion.